When faced with the absolute boundary of death, human instinct demands control. We want to rewind the clock, cheat the inevitable, and dictate the terms of our own survival. Around 2,700 years ago, King Hezekiah of Judah hit that exact boundary. A terminal illness brought him to the brink, and the prophet Isaiah delivered a blunt directive directly from God: "Put your house in order, because your time is up." Hezekiah refused to accept this. This animated diagram of an ancient sundial shows the staggering physical proof God provided to seal that promise of healing. He manipulated the laws of physics, halting the shadow and making it reverse course by 10 degrees. Hezekiah contributed nothing to his own recovery. It was a sheer, unmerited gift of grace, purely expanding his timeline. Yet history turns on what happened inside that extra time. During those 15 borrowed years, Hezekiah fathered a son named Manasseh, a man who would grow up to be the most deeply wicked and destructive king in Judah's history. This reveals a hidden danger. An extension of life without a corresponding increase in spiritual vigilance is often a recipe for disaster. This exposes an uncomfortable truth about human nature. When we are trapped in the valley of desperation, our reliance on God is absolute. Set us on the mountaintop of success, and that clarity vanishes. Wrapped in the comfort of his miraculous recovery, Hezekiah completely dropped his spiritual defenses. Envoys soon arrived from Babylon, a rising, ambitious empire rapidly consolidating power behind massive, imposing walls. Hezekiah was incredibly flattered by their attention. Instead of telling these foreign diplomats about the God who healed him and reversed the sun, Hezekiah gave them a tour. He opened up his armories and these vast earthly storehouses, proudly displaying every ounce of silver, gold, and weaponry he possessed. He traded divine grace as a political bargaining chip. It was a calculated theft of God's glory, an attempt to leverage a miracle to secure a secular alliance. When you use God-given grace as capital to impress the secular world, you inevitably invite the darkest forces of that world directly into your most vulnerable spaces. The prophet Isaiah immediately returned, demanding to know who these men were and exactly what they had seen. When Hezekiah admitted he had shown them everything, Isaiah delivered a crushing prophecy. Every piece of wealth in those storehouses, and Hezekiah's own future descendants, would be violently carried off into exile by those exact same Babylonians. Faced with the impending doom of his entire lineage, Hezekiah's response was shockingly brief. He simply agreed with the prophet. He reasoned that the word of the Lord was good, entirely because there would be peace and security during his own remaining lifetime. He was perfectly willing to sacrifice the spiritual and physical safety of his descendants just to guarantee his own temporary comfort. Hezekiah's willingness to let his children pay the price for his own comfort stands in total opposition to the true definition of a king. While this earthly ruler threw his descendants to the wolves for a few years of personal peace, humanity requires a leader who operates in reverse. Jesus Christ sacrificed himself to secure eternal peace for his people. The warning here extends to anyone navigating wealth, comfort, and pride today. Believers and the church as a whole must never trade their core values for validation from the secular empires of their time. All visible glory, every stockpile of silver, and every imposing fortress will eventually crumble. True hope can only be anchored in an eternal kingdom. Looking back at the eventual exile and the brutal, evil reign of his son Manasseh, we are left with a heavy question. Was God's original plan for Hezekiah to die actually the better plan? Death itself is never a good thing, but God's overarching will for the timeline of history, seeing the massive ripples of every single action, is infinitely superior to our ground-level perspective. It challenges the arrogant assumption that we always know what outcome is best for our own lives. Lasting peace is never found by frantically fighting God for a few more years of comfort. It is found by quietly, humbly surrendering to a perfectly sovereign timeline.